Hey, welcome back, everyone, to the Triple Margin Freedom podcast. I'm your host, Mark Mathia, and this is the podcast to listen to. If you're an entrepreneur, an executive, a people leader, and you're trying to figure out the secret sauce to more profit, to more time, and better teamwork. If that's you, you've come to the right place. Let's get to it. So this week, it's not going to be an interview, but I decided to jump on and answer a few questions that I've gotten throughout the week about an article that I posted on LinkedIn. So not Brains Magazine, I do contribute to that, but this one was on LinkedIn. And I shared some findings that came out, and you can find it on LinkedIn if you just go to my profile. By the way, if we're not connected on LinkedIn, please do. I'd love to connect with you. Make sure you tell me that we met here so that I know why you're coming. But it's the name of the article, I'm looking at it here, was Gallup's latest wake-up call, why 12 direct reports is becoming the new normal and quietly burning out your managers. 4 proven moves to fix it. So that's the background. Gallup came up with a new report and shared some revealing statistics. The numbers have increased in terms of manager size, the size of team that managers are leading. And we're seeing a direct correlation between the size of team and the level of burnout that's happening with managers. And just to give you a little bit more context, it was about 10.4, I think the number was, it's in the article. And now they're up to 12 something. So the span of control is getting wider. But we continue to hear that burnout is on the rise, that managers need help, that people are struggling. And so this week, I've just collected the questions that I've received from that particular article. And I thought I'd answer those for us today. So sit back, relax, enjoy. I have a really nice Earl Grey tea, and I'm drinking it out of my I Love My Golden Retriever mug, which will be a great mug as long as she doesn't barge in here barking. Okay, so let's get to it, can we? Here's the first question that was sent in to me, and it was a really, really insightful one. It said, Mark, everybody's talking about Gallups. Why are managers burning out faster than ever right now? And what is your coaching doing to stop the bleeding? And that's great. No, first of all, it sounds a little accusatory, but I know it wasn't because I know this person who asked it. But it's a really great question because it's a trend that not only have I experienced it as a coach, but also as an operator. Like as I was managing inside of organizations, and our span of control was out of control, meaning that we had by contract a lot of employees, associates under one manager, and that manager tended to struggle quite a bit. Now, the interesting thing is this: some managers struggle, some managers don't. And so I've often looked at it in terms of what is the driving force. So if we're going to have larger teams, first and foremost, understand this: some managers can handle it, some managers cannot. And oftentimes, the root cause of the problem isn't necessarily the manager, it's the system and the way that we incentivize the manager. What am I saying there? Well, if we have a manager whose team recently expands, say from, I'm going to go way out there and say from 15 employees to 20 employees, and he or she is still incentivized on performance, production, specifically her own production, that typically is where burnout starts to occur. Why? Because when you raise the number of people that they're managing to that level of performance, and you expect your manager to perform at that level, you're asking too much of any one individual. And so oftentimes we'll first dial in there. What systems or structures do we have in place within the organization? And what are we incenting? And is what we're incenting driving the right results? And oftentimes right there, that key question can take you to that area of, yeah, we're right where we need to be or not. And so I would say this: I like to do audits, a couple audits here that's really important. First, examine where the money comes from. How is the manager paid? What is the incentive based on? If the incentive is tied to individual performance plus then some extra spiff for team performance, I have a little yellow flag. to be honest, that comes up. And we talk about something a little bit different at that point. We start to talk about how could we shift that so that that manager's daily work, and remember, there's going to be daily work activity that has to happen just in the management of the team, let alone individual performance. So if you've not uncoupled those two for that manager and you've expanded their control, you've put that manager in a situation where it's not a win-win situation, it's a win-lose situation. And again, every manager is different. Some managers may be able to handle this, but I would say this: if your manager is spending more than 20% of their time on individual performance goals for themselves and then trying to manage an expanded team, you really have yourself set up for failure. So that's the first thing. The second is, I would simply say we need to measure engagement, because it's not really the number of people underneath the manager, it's how engaged is the team. And if you have a manager who understands the power of team engagement, that manager can do more by themselves, because highly engaged associates tend to take on a bigger role, more responsibility, get their jobs done. There's a sense of energy. John Maxwell said that momentum will solve about 80% of your problems. And so I often look in that manager, are they the kind of manager that can create team dynamics that give momentum away as a gift? And if your manager is that capable, then you won't have a problem. But if engagement is low, or if you have people who are resistant, maybe not fully engaged, moderately engaged, or actively disengaged, meaning if we're all in a boat rowing, you're actively disengaged, which is typically only 2 to 15% of your team. 15 would be high, by the way, but the smaller portion of your team that's rowing against the canoe. So if we're all rowing in a direction, they're kind of paddling in the opposite direction. You could see where that starts to cause drag and the entire team starts to feel it. That would be a major problem for me. So I measure engagement. And how do I do that? Well, simple. You can measure engagement, but the first place I'd go out to Gallup's Q12. They often, if you Google it or look it up, have scientifically found the questions that help measure engagement and give you a really great understanding of what you're looking for. But what you're looking for at the end of the day is just associates who are willing to do their job. And in some of that time where they have time to kick back, maybe they get through it. Instead of doing that, they kind of contribute more. They maybe take a duty away from you, or maybe they help a peer out, or maybe they're just going a little bit above and beyond to prove that they can. I mean, whatever it is, that active engagement looks like a superpower. And when people start to work in that level of intensity, then everything tends to rise because momentum is right around the corner. And it doesn't take but, a handful of people on your team to be actively engaged to drive the entire team towards that. So best managers understand the power of engagement. It's more than just taking one of those surveys as a measurement. It's listening. You have to be able to get the results, look at them, measure if your team is actively engaged, and whatever you do, don't ignore what that report just said. You have to take action on it. So every single time you listen, you need to put in place a way to respond. And that respond is going to show your people and teams that you're listening and really care. That's going to drive active engagement. And so I would just say that, the second thing is really you need to measure active engagement, see where you're at, and then address any gaps. By the way, a team can quickly go from kind of driven to drag with active disengagement. And so it's important to know where it's coming from and why, and address it quickly. And if your teammates feel that there are people on the team that are working against them and being rewarded, or not doing the work, just kind of, instead of rowing at all, they're just sitting on the boat while everyone else is rowing really hard, that will tend to drive your team morale down, which will tend to drive engagement down. Once engagement goes down, then there's no way your leader is going to perform, especially if they've expanded the level of reports that report to them. Okay, makes sense? So I would say this, that it's a bit of a silly question in that it's not the same for everyone, but it's an important question because there's typically either systematic reasons why it's happening. And if we get to the root causes, you're able to really help managers be able to be free to lead and make sure that they're incented on the right reasons so that they can drive positive active engagement and that they can make sure that each one of their team members feel like their team is worthy to serve, that their individual roles are connected to the mission, and that they're able all to do quality jobs together. It gives a real great esprit de corps. All right, second question. Hopefully we nailed that one. Second question. Give us the dirt, Mark. What real world shifts are you seeing in clients in terms of their energy, profits, and retention when you turn a fried manager around? Okay. So this is an interesting question. I left it in there because I love how it's framed. First of all, kudos to that fried manager who turns around. And so as a coach, when I go into a situation and I'm working with a manager who's fried, it's not me who turns him around. I'm the guide. I can point out the areas like I just discussed to help them do the real work. But when you see a manager go from fried to free, it's typically because they've gotten tired about being fried, that they've discovered that instead of figuring this is a new normal and there's no way out, I've been able to guide with them a new vision for what's possible. And that's the real important part about coaching, is that all the answers, all the movement, and all the hard work is really done by my talent, the people I'm working with. And so the first thing I do is make sure I establish a strong coaching relationship. And then together with that fried manager, start to look at the systems and structures that are in place and make sure those make sense. And then listen to the soundtracks that are coming out of that manager's mouth. How does he or she feel about themselves? How is the role? Do they like what they're doing? When's the last time they did a strength audit on themselves and practice using their strengths every single day at work? Most of the time in those situations, they haven't, or they've stopped, or they forgot, and they just need a little bit of guidance to get back on track, doing the basics. Monitor your strengths. No more than 20% of your time on individual contribution roles. Make sure you're connecting with your people. And the key is frequent performance-based conversations. And if you can get a manager to start just having frequent performance-based conversations, especially, here's a pro tip, use it around strengths, meaning you're acknowledging other people's strengths, you're seeing what's right in them. So you're going to start to drive engagement from every level of that organization, and it's going to help both that manager move forward with some momentum and also kind of kick the fried to free. So I look at it that way. Okay. So let's frame it that way. But let me go back to my Cadillac's PSE framework, because I think it's important to mention on this one. So Cadillac's PSE is the catalyst experience, and it's typically the way I like to go in. And there's three pillars that I look at when I'm working with a manager, especially someone who feels fried or a little behind the curve or just a little bit beaten down. First and foremost is the first pillar, psychology or mindset. Now, everyone goes, here we go again. You're going to be digging around in the psychology of things. Well, it's really important, because the messages or stories we tell ourselves often become a reality, because our actions soon follow those thoughts. So heck yes, I do. I love what Tony Robbins said. He says that 80% of our success in business, whether we're an owner, whether we're an executive, whether we're an operator, whether we're an artist, 80% of our success is driven by those messages or our mindset or our psychology. So you're darn right. The first pillar is going to be psychology. I have to understand where our head is and what messages we're sending ourselves. What are we actually believing is true in this situation? And most of the time, when we're in that situation, that fried is thinking that's gone astray, either overthinking, sometimes it's underthinking and refusing to think. It's not real. It's just, and sometimes we get into the three P's where, for whatever reason, our situation is personal, like everybody's against them. It's pervasive, meaning it's everywhere. It's every part of their life. It's normally never that. And it's permanent, meaning it can never change. And that's not true either. So I start with psychology. We quickly move to strategy. And this is where I'm unique as a coach, because I don't look at strategy as just the soft skill things. Like I always look at, are you in alignment with your values? Well, the first question is, what do you value? And then I ask, why do you value what you value? And then your daily work, are you living those values? And oftentimes, if you're not, then it causes a problem with your psychology. And I believe that our strategies have to contribute to positive psychology. So we go there. But I don't just stop there with values and mission alignment. The other thing I stop with is intelligence or IQ. Now, most coaches can go and really hit the EQ. Like we need our emotional quotient. Is that how you say that? To be higher, right? We want to be self-aware. We want to do, and all of that is so important. I get it. That's fine. But so is our intelligence. How well do you know your job? How much are you spending getting to know the work that you put your mind to? How well do you know your team's job? And can you become a subject matter expert, the kind of leader that everybody comes to for the answers that really matter? So we often do that now in coaching with me. I do that for business owners through profit acceleration, meaning I have a virtual MBA. I have a Jumpstart 12, which is 12 tasks or things that you need to do as a small business operator that drives about 80% of the revenue. Why? Because I want to make sure that profit is stable, because that is the domino that knocks over every other domino. Oftentimes you could have a great leader, but you have an unprofitable situation where you're losing money, or you've signed a client that's not profitable. I don't care how good you are, you're going to lose your opportunity to be successful over the long run unless we fix that. So profit is important. So I have a whole back end system to help raise your IQ, your business intelligence, so that as you get more confident, you get more sure and you know exactly where you need to go to make sure your organization is more profitable. It's not uncommon to be able to find 10,000 to $1 million in revenue that's stalled, sitting, frozen, or forgotten. And I don't mean it's sitting at a bank. I mean, with very small incremental changes using the power of compounding within business, we're able to unlock that money. And once we get in that flow, then all of a sudden everything else is possible. See, that's how that IQ and our strategies will feed our psychology. And so when we learn, we get more confident. When we get more confident, we make better decisions. We make better decisions. That feeds our psychology. You get it. And finally, the E is energy. And the, and the E is really important. So 3 pillars: psychology, strategy, and energy. And here's this: as leaders, right? We just need to understand how we're doing. So I look at energy as both gas and gauge. Let me explain it. I know that's confusing. First, I'll start with gauge. Our energy gauge is how we're feeling, which is directly tied to our strategy, which is directly tied to our psychology. So if we're feeling low, tired, and worn out, there's something wrong in those systems, hence the way I answered the other questions. If our energy is high and thriving, then there's something right in those systems. And I can use that as a lever. And what I like to teach is the little yellow flag. Just notice, how are you feeling? And so if you go eat a greasy hamburger, right, at one of those joints, and it's really good, and you're just going down, you're woofing it down, and you eat, and then you're too full, and all of a sudden you notice how bad you feel. See, to me, it's just simply this. That's a little yellow flag, bing, popping up in your head. If it makes you feel bad, don't repeat it. Okay, it's that simple. Same thing with our energy at work. If we're feeling dragged out, if we're feeling fried, if we're tired and weary, that's a yellow flag, not a red flag, yellow flag. Let's manage what's causing that. Let's get really serious about that and make sure that we have a way to measure it. Okay, so that's the gauge, right? It just makes sense. But then it's also the gas, because what we know is that our psychology, or how we feel about ourselves, directly impacts our energy. It directly impacts our psychology. Why do you think they have the poses like the Superman pose, right? Sit up straight, put your arms on your hips and feel the power. Well, it's not fake it till you make it. There's a real neurological connection between your state, how you feel, your state of being, and your psychology, your state of thinking. And so we use it as the gas to accelerate our psychology. And so in those 3 things I just mentioned, those 3 pillars, what we've done is created an ecosystem that feeds the psychology, where we know 80% of our success will come from. And then we get down into if it was a Venn diagram, right in the middle is our to-dos. And what I'm seeing now is most managers are stuck in doing to-dos, and only about a small percentage of them are critical, essential to-dos. The rest are not. But you cannot audit those effectively and put your highest value, highest reward actions at the top of that list and solely focus on those until you're in the right state of being, state of mind. Your psychology's right, your strategies are right, your energy's right. Then we look at that to-do list and we make that right. And then what we do is we actually do less but better. And that is how we amplify or make up more time. Now, you can't make up time, but you can stop doing stupid things and you can start focusing on what really drives your business forward. And so, even in my mastermind groups, we'll break it down to 10 things that I know will move the needle in your profit margin. That's it. Just do those 10 things. You'll get your money back in no time. So I think that's really important. And that's kind of how the Catalyx PSE. All right, final question. And I'm getting pinged over there by my producer to make this one short. Okay. What's the secret process to spot and leverage a leader's core strengths so that they can accelerate profits without adding more stress or bigger teams? That's a great question. So how do you use strengths to make more profits? And it's simply this. Your strengths is your natural pattern of thinking, feeling, and acting. The easier it is for you to identify what that is, meaning have a really good understanding of that state of being when you're in your strength zone, or what Eli Mixchexnihai says, your flow state. If you can start to map how you get in that, I call it pattern of high performance. That pattern of high performance through your strengths will get you in that state of flow. That state of flow will then allow you to work on those tasks and achievements that add the most value at a super rate of speed. And once we identify our strengths, that's why I like Gallup and I like Clifton's strengths, because it's the cheapest, quite frankly, and easiest way to give yourself some nomenclature or naming system of those strengths so that you can then get to know them. You can kind of see how they show up for you. Everybody's different. So it's like a brand new map on every client and every talent I work with. But you have to be able to map that really easy. And that's just the easiest way. There are other ways we could do it without that assessment. Quite frankly, we can track, like Marcus Buckingham says, our loves and our kind of lows, the things we loathe doing and the things we love to do. And we could put our own name to it. And that's perfectly fine. It's just easier, quicker, and more efficient. So I like to have strength-based organizations around Gallup's Clifton strengths. Okay. So once we've named those and once we can start to recognize our strengths and what they look like, what I do is I help managers understand what that looks like. And then I help them to remember them so that they can get in that state of being and in that flow state so that the work that they're doing for the team members they're serving is at their best. Because Clifton Strengths doesn't measure if you can do a certain job. We can all do whatever job is put in front of us. What Clifton Strengths does, it tells us how we best do that job. So it's not if, it's how. And if I can get to the how, and everybody's different, and we can overlap that with the pattern of high performance, then we can take that same pattern and we can overlay it in different situations, and we can start attacking problems, attacking challenges that matter using our strengths, which seem easier. They're not easier, but it'll seem easier. Why? Because you're attacking it with the best of you. There's no more attacking it from a kind of on your heels and back and constricted and oh, I'm just getting beat up. No, you're using your strengths. So when a manager invests in their strengths, when they invest in their strengths and really get to know them, and when you go that one extra step, which is why I love coaching, and actually learn how to integrate strength-based thinking into your daily activities, then nothing stands in your way from getting into that flow state, from leading from your best self. And as your team expands, if you're helping other people do exactly what I just said, I would help that leader do because these skills are transferable, then all of a sudden, what did we just do? We're going to raise the engagement level of the entire team so that they can win and win together. And that's when my work gets really, really, really super exciting. So, how do you spot those strengths, the lows, the loves? Take the assessment And then you just have to make it part. You have to integrate it into your daily activity. You have to integrate it into those frequent performance-based conversations. You have to integrate it into your daily conversations and what you're noticing about your people. Catch them when they do something right, using their strengths. You'll find that when you acknowledge something as specific as, I saw your achiever strength, you really got a lot of work done yesterday. Well done. I can see achiever in you a mile away. Those direct connections say, hey, he's seen me or she heard me and understand me. And so this is how strengths becomes much more than just buzzwords or another assessment that you take that we make fun of when we get up on stage and say, I'm a DMSVPD or whatever. It becomes an actual model that we can use to scale our teams. And in the case of this entire issue, in the Gallup case, it's also how we should be looking at, can my manager handle more people? Is my span of control, can it enlarge? And in business, it often can. Now, what they're going to say, most businesses is that AI technology, we're using it more, so we're interacting it. I'm not seeing that. I think it's additive, meaning it is helpful. You do get more done, but because you're more efficient in some areas, we're adding more work to it. And that's where we just have to say, we can't lean on just technology alone. We have to use the same old fashioned people skills to help managers be prepared to drive engagement. That engagement will drive performance. That performance driver will lead to more profit, will lead to more time because we'll do less, but better. And it will lead to better teamwork because we'll understand the motivations of our team, and we'll understand that everybody's worldview is going to be slightly different when it comes to their strengths. But if you give me a manager who can spot strengths and pull it out of people and then employ a few systems to make a difference, then I will give you a successful ecosystem. And I will tell you that the number, if it went from 10 to 12, whatever Gallup's reporting on there, it's important. It's great information. Gallup puts out such wonderful information, but it only matters in the quality of manager you have in place and the systems you have. If they're aligned, then you're going to be able to really make a difference in that manager's existence, that team existence. Engagement's going to go up, and man, you're going to be in Profit City before you know it. Okay. Well, thanks. Thanks for joining me. Thanks for those questions, friends who sent those in. I love that you liked that article. Do you know, I had more reads on that article than anyone I posted. And I was just kind of responding. Gallup put it out and I found it fascinating. So I thought I'd throw a few of my thoughts in there with it, but it was really good. So connect with me on LinkedIn. Get to know me. Thank you for being here. I'm a little bit over our time, but I hope this has been the best 30 minutes you've spent this week. So I hope you enjoy the podcast. Leave me a message below. Connect with me. Follow this on YouTube, or you can go out to my audio only at Podbean or iTunes, and then go out to markmathiacoaching.com. Sign up, grab my triple margin freedom resource. You're going to love that. It's going to really help point you in the direction of getting to that triple margin, more profit, more time, and better teamwork. And until we talk again and these interviews start happening, I cannot wait to connect with you again. Just do me one little favor. Leave a comment, subscribe, join, and go out there and elevate your moments. Thanks, everyone. Appreciate you.